This is QTV News coming to you live from our studios on Kairaba Avenue, and I am Ashma Uba. Thanks for joining us. Before the news headlines, we start with a breaking news story. Brazilian football legend Pelé, considered by many to be the greatest player ever, has died at the age of 82. Pelé is the only player to win the World Cup 3 times, lifting the trophy in 1958, aged 17 in 1962, and again in 1970. He was named FIFA's Player of the Century in 2000. He had been suffering with kidney and prostate problems in recent years. We will have a full tribute in tomorrow's news bulletin. The headlines. More details about the alleged coup plot against President Barrow and some of the operational plans of the alleged coup plotters have emerged at a press briefing at the defense headquarters in Banjul on Thursday. Ahead of New Year's celebrations across the country, senior officers from various units of the Gambia Police Force have called on the public to remain law-abiding and report crimes to the nearest police station. Following the deaths of 70 children from acute kidney injury, we engaged stakeholders in the pharmaceutical industry on the impact of the tragedy on their businesses. The National Council for Civic Education, in collaboration with UNICEF and other partners, organized a day of national stakeholder sensitization on Wednesday on the Persons with Disability Act 2021. In international news, despite continuous Russian shelling of Ukrainian cities, Kyiv is neither intimidated nor deterred when it comes to seeking strong diplomatic ties around the world, and especially in Africa. Those were main headlines. Now the news in detail. Now, more details about the alleged coup plot against President Adama Barrow have emerged at a press briefing at the defense headquarters in Banjul on Thursday. The press briefing highlighted some of the operational plans of the alleged coup plotters, which include arresting cabinet ministers, taking over strategic locations in the Greater Banjul area, and retiring senior military officers from the Gambia Armed Forces. Mahmoud Lamin Choi has the latest.
It is over a week since the announcement of an alleged coup plot to overthrow the government of Adama Barrow in the Gambia. The media is gathered at the defense headquarters for a press briefing by members of the National Security Council. The media update is delivered by the newly appointed National Security Advisor, Abubakar Suleiman Jang, flanked by the Chief of Defense Staff, the Director General of the State Intelligence Services, and the Deputy Inspector General of Police. The National Security Advisor fleshes out what has been established from investigations into the alleged coup plot.
It has been established that the alleged coup plotters made contacts and held clandestine meetings in some places identified within the country as they were planning the unearthed coup plot. Also, reports are pointing to the suspected involvement of sponsors for the coup plot from civilian collaborators who were both within and outside of the country. The investigations are seriously looking into this angle.
Also in the hands of the investigators are the operational plan of the alleged coup plotters, revealing the deployment strength, tasking and positioning for a forceful takeover of the State House to prevent any intervention.
The Gambia naval base in Banjul was identified to be the launching platform with accomplices from the State Guard, Fajara Barracks, Yundum Barracks, and other battalions across the country. In addition to the State House, the plan shows other key locations to be taken over and occupied, which include the Denton Bridge, the Bond Road Banjul Highway intersection, Arch 22, and installations such as Nawek Power Station at Kotu, radio stations, the Abuka Art Station, the airport, and also to seal off the economic troops. The coup plotters also intended to use media propaganda to promote their takeover, arrest cabinet ministers and senior government officials to use them as hostages to prevent any foreign intervention. They also had plans to retire all senior military officers from the rank of major and above, and also restructure the Gambia Armed Forces.
On Tuesday this week, the Gambia government constituted an 11-member joint investigative panel to investigate the alleged coup plot. The multi-sectoral panel draws members from the Ministry of Justice, Office of the National Security Advisor, the Gambia Armed Forces, the Gambia Police Force, and the State Intelligence Service.
The joint investigation team has 30 days, effective 27 December 2022, to investigate, prepare, and submit their report on the alleged coup plot. Following the completion of the investigation, the public will be informed accordingly of the outcome and the next course of action.
The briefing ended without entertaining questions from journalists who are keen to probe various aspects of the alleged coup plot. The National Security Advisor cites not wishing to compromise the sensitive nature of the ongoing investigations as a reason for not fielding questions. Since the announcement of the alleged coup plot, 7 members of the Gambia Armed Forces linked to it have been arrested. Mahmoud Lamin Choy, QTV News.
Now, ahead of New Year's celebration across the country, senior officers from various units of the Gambia Police Force on Thursday called on the public to remain law-abiding and report crimes to the nearest police station. More in this report by Ansumani Isonyasi.
With Gambians anticipating joining the rest of the world to celebrate the new year on Saturday night, the police have revealed, among other things, plans to intensify patrols and increase police presence at key identified locations within the Greater Banjul area. Festive periods in the Gambia usually attract huge gatherings and celebrations at various places, especially around the tourism development area. And with many events already announced for New Year's Day celebrations, officers commanding various police units are calling on the public to remain law-abiding and report crime or any suspected crime within the community or at program venues. Chief Superintendent Musa Sanyang, Chief of Operation for Kanifing West, and ASP Amadou Bojang, Officer Commanding Mobile Traffic Unit, Kanifing respectively, stressed that maintaining peace and order throughout the festive period should be everybody's business, adding that while many officers will be deployed, the police will not entertain any disorderliness, especially when it threatens public safety.
If will deploy the officers at all the critical places, like you name it, where places which that it attract the convergence of people, in terms of celebration. That is the Westfield, Buva Zone, Turkistown, Traffic Light, Bakote, and even Senegambia.
Driving during this period is a big challenge for us, and then we are advising parents not to allow kids to be driving during the feast, because it's always a problem. They are underage, they are not qualified, they cause a lot of problems during the day on the road. So we are doing everything possible to stop all those things. Although traffic is continuous thing every day, 24/7.
ASP Amadou Drame, the commander of Police TSU, a unit of the police responsible for security within the tourism area, and Cadet ASP Mohamed Dabo, Deputy PRO of the Gambia Police Force, also echoed the appeal to the public to help the police maintain law and order by reporting crime or any suspected criminals to the nearest police station.
As a result of this, we are appealing to the general public, especially parents, guardians, to steer clear of, to educate their children to steer clear of any unlawful behaviors, because whoever is found doing such is going to made to face the full wrath of the law. So we are not going to compromise this. And again, I would also like to appeal to the general public to pay particular attention to their personal securities, because it's also very important.
Calling out to everyone, the Gambian people, citizens or residents, to not use the festive period as an advantage for fight, for disorder, for other forms of violence. Festive periods are supposed to be a period of enjoyment, supposed to be a period of good times, but also a period of maintenance of peace and order. There is no guarantee that festive period is reserved for any violence purposes. You know, as most of the people will say, this is a nice day, so we should be free to do anything. In fact, those are days that we should abide by the laws of this land, respect each other, and protect our personal security and the security of the next person beside us.
Along with an increased police presence at the identified venues, the officers also revealed that they will intensify patrols within communities. Ansmane Sonyasi for KTV News.
Now, following the deaths of 70 children from acute kidney injury are possibly linked to contaminated over-the-counter cough medicines, QTV's Julden Jai engaged stakeholders in the pharmaceutical industry on the impact of the tragedy on their businesses. Here is the report.
Pharmacies and drugstores in the country are feeling the pinch after the outbreak of the acute kidney injury, which led to the deaths of at least 70 children. Public trust appears to have declined in the products they sell due to the fear of what happened to those children. Phobia, social media reports, and fake news have possibly contributed to the public shunning genuine products. Mahawanjai, administrator of Stop Step Pharmacy, says the AKI deaths have affected all the pharmaceutical businesses in the country.
As a business, it has affected us drastically because most of the products that we used to sell, like paracetamol, promethazine, we have put on hold until we finish the investigations. But eventually, they've been released and they're in circulation. But there's still some mentality attached to the drugs that we are said to have been causing this AKI saga.
Mr. Njai assured Gambians that the drugs that they sell are of good quality, adding that they will do whatever needs to be done to ensure that such incidents do not occur again.
Providing quality medicine is the reason that we are here. And if our service happened to be found wanting, we would accept any criticism, we would accept any measures taken against any importer to make sure that all importers import quality and products of good standard.
Churchillstown drugstore has also been greatly impacted by the Aki incident. Mustafa Mane is one of the nurses at this drugstore.
Here we normally have consultation and we sell drugs also too. But since this outbreak, if patients come, you consult them, you give them drugs, they will not want to take the drugs because of the belief they have. And they think that all these drugs are contaminated. While it's the only, there are just few drugs that are contaminated, that are made from Maiden Pharmacy.
Mr. Mane said all the drugs manufactured by Maiden Pharmaceutical Limited have been disposed of and advises people to trust their medicines instead of herbal medicines.
And I would like to urge every Gambian, like our parents at home, those who are not educated, because some of them, they have the concept that if you use these drugs or any syrup, because even at times I will be at home, someone will call me, I'm sick, but I'm afraid to go to the hospital.
Ibrahim Jallo, sales manager at Sun Pharmacy, is also devastated by the deaths of the children and further has this to say.
Not all Indian medicines are of low quality. Indian medicines, some of them, they are very, very effective. Me, I'm telling you here as a family member or as myself, I'm talking between me and God, I use Indian medicine, my family use Indian medicine because those are the ones that are readily available in the markets.
Mr. Jallo urged his colleagues to prioritize the welfare of the public over everything else. After over a month inquiry, the National Assembly Select Committee on Health has released its 43-page report into the death of the children. The committee recommends, among other things, that the government of the Gambia should take legal action on Maiden Pharmaceutical Limited in India.
The Select Committee is convinced that Maiden Pharmaceutical Limited is culpable and should be held accountable for exporting the contaminated medicine that was linked to the death of at least 70 children in the Gambia in 2022.
According to a report by Reuters, India's pharmaceuticals regulator has begun inspecting some drug factories across the country on Tuesday as it tries to ensure high standards are maintained after the Gambia incident. India is known as the pharmacy of the world. and its pharmaceuticals exports have more than doubled over the past decade to $24.5 billion in the past fiscal year. The government of India has said that the 4 cough syrups linked to child deaths have complied with safety specifications when tested at home. The WHO says it's standing by its findings that it had tested samples of syrups and found that they had contained unacceptable amounts of chemicals that damage the lungs, brain, liver and kidneys of those who take them. Just as we completed this story, the BBC reported that Uzbekistan's health ministry has said that 18 children have died after taking a cough syrup manufactured by an Indian drug maker, Maroon Biotech. The ministry said that preliminary tests showed a batch of the medicine contained ethylene glycol, a toxic substance. This is the first time the Gambia has experienced such an incident involving the deaths of so many children with a common medication link. The public appeared to be taking seriously the adage, one bad apple spoils the whole bunch, in being cautious to prevent history repeating itself. Looking ahead, the pharmacy sector has the task of rebuilding public trust in the products they sell. For QTV News, I am Julden Jai.
Now that story by Julden Jai will lead us to a commercial break, but when we return, we have more local as well as international stories for you. Do stay tuned.
Being the Gambia's trusted network, QCell continues to provide the fastest and most reliable internet service in the Gambia. With 4G plus internet speed, you are guaranteed fast and reliable internet anytime, anywhere with QCell. Get a QCell SIM card now at any of our customer care centers and enjoy the fastest 4G internet in the Gambia. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunyubus, we innovate, others follow. Good news from the Gambia's premier certified auto mechanic garage, Espas Motors. Have you been having trouble with your vehicle? No worries, Espas Motors have got you covered. This December to January, drive right to Espas Motors for your general diagnostic at a very affordable price. We diagnose coolant level, battery life, power steering fluid and brake fluid, timing belt checks, suspension checks, tire check, brake pad checks, engine and transmission leaks, transmission, light checks, headlight signal brake, parking lights. Drive in and drive away with the confidence that all your car issues have been solved. So what are you waiting for? Rush now for a great deal. We are located at Bertil Harding Highway, opposite Kotu Power Station. Espas Motors, the nation's premier certified auto mechanic garage. Call us on 352222 353-4444. Espas Motors.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV News with me, Asma Uba. Now, the National Council for Civic Education, in collaboration with UNICEF and other partners, on Wednesday organized a day of national stakeholders sensitization on the Persons with Disabilities Act 2021 as part of efforts to widen dissemination of these laws. Alusise reports.
The Stakeholders Forum brought together persons living with disabilities via representative organizations and other stakeholders. The theme of the convergence is the role of stakeholders in ensuring inclusion of persons with disabilities. It is reported that 15% of the world population are persons living with disabilities, yet they are underrepresented in key decision-making processes. It is because of this that this act seeks to promote their welfare and inclusion in society. Alhaji Sering Fay, chairman of National Council for Civic Education, said the act is in line with the Constitution, which provides and recognizes respect for the rights of persons with disabilities.
Section 216, subsection 2, on the social objectives, provides for the establishment of policies that protect the rights and freedoms of the disabled, the aged, the children, and other vulnerable members of the society to ensure just and equitable social opportunities. The disability community continues to battle for their basic human rights.
Saini Kamara, representing the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Welfare and Council Renata R. Jug of the Ministry of Justice renewed the government's commitment to implementing the Act to advance and protect the fundamental human rights of persons living with disabilities.
The government commits to supporting the process towards the realization of building a disability-inclusive and participatory society for socio-economic development.
That persons with disabilities have inherent dignity and individual autonomy, including the freedom to make one's choice.
Representing UNICEF, Amaniwon Njilan Esengbedo said UNICEF is delighted to support the process of an inclusive society, which is key in the ongoing popularization of the law. She praises the government of the Gambia for its determination to uphold the effective implementation of the new law.
If there's a proper implementation of this act, we know that it will lead to an enabling environment for the reduction of poverty and the promotion of social inclusion of all persons with disabilities, including children, including women with disabilities.
Magistrate Mohamed Krobali, President of the Gambia Federation of the Disabled, who also doubles as chairman of the National Advisory Council of the Persons with Disabilities, has this short but strong message on respecting diversity, equality, and non-discrimination.
Gambia government should ensure that the existing laws that tend to discriminate persons with disabilities are abolished or modified or adjusted.
Participants are expected to use the information gathered from the forum to further disseminate the importance of the Act. Last year, the National Assembly enacted the Persons with Disability Law after almost a decade of tireless advocacy. It is described as a major step towards fulfillment of the Gambia's international obligation, especially to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cissé.
That story by Aliou Cissé will lead us to international news in a moment. Now, despite continuous Russian shelling of Ukrainian cities, Kyiv is neither intimidated nor deterred when it comes to seeking strong diplomatic ties around the world, and especially in Africa. However, this latest attempt must deal with Russia's already strong ties with many African countries. It also comes as world powers vie for Africa's support on various fronts. Suleiman Dabo has more.
This latest attempt by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to revive diplomatic relations with Africa can be argued as either a direct challenge to Russia, seeking further support from the continent, or engaging in a just and mutual pursuit of relationships. Whatever the motivation, Africa has gained a renewed recognition and prominence from key world actors. In a recent speech, President Zelensky said, and I quote, "We are restarting relations with dozens of African countries. Next year, we must strengthen this. 10 states have already been identified where new Ukrainian embassies in Africa will be opened," end quote. While no specific mention has been made of countries that the Ukrainians want to engage, Sub-Saharan Africa appears to be key in the calculation of Zelensky and his top diplomats. We are currently focusing on Sub-Saharan Africa, which no one in Ukraine has dealt with and where Russia currently has a strong position, Maxim Sobol, Ukraine's special representative for the Middle East and Africa, told a Ukrainian news outlet. And according to President Zelensky, the interest in the African continent is not only limited to diplomatic representation, but trade as well. We have also developed the concept of the Ukraine-Africa Trading House, with the opening of its representatives' offices in the capitals of the most promising countries of the continent. And according to Sobol, Ukrainian companies have already expressed interest in the agriculture and food sectors of sub-Saharan markets. However, some observers say for Africa to mutually benefit from this or any other diplomatic relationship with any country or region, it must present a united front in its engagements. Talking as a group instead of as individual countries will avail the continent a more leveraging and negotiating power. Boni Yao Gebe, an African analyst and senior research fellow at the University of Ghana's Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy, told DW that when it comes to negotiations, Africa can speak with one voice. This is something that is lacking on the continent. Whether this path will be pursued by African leaders remains to be seen, but certainly the continent has gained unprecedented status and recognition in international affairs, as evidenced by the recent U.S.-Africa summit held in Washington, D.C., which was attended by dozens of African leaders. The summit was important for the U.S., coming in the wake of the surprise in Western countries over African countries not going along with their plan to sanction Russia at the United Nations. Other analysts question the timing of this new Ukrainian interest. The war with Russia can certainly be a reason for Ukraine to look for new partnerships and support in exerting more international pressure on Russia to rethink about the war. Either stop the war altogether or face continuous international isolation is a position Ukraine has consistently pushed for since the start of the invasion by Russia. It must, however, be stated that Russia continues to maintain a strong support in the African continent, and that is going to make Ukraine's efforts in the continent a Herculean task. Suleiman Dabo for QTV News.
That's it for the news, but before we go, a recap of our main news headlines. More details about the alleged coup plot against President Adama Barrow and some of the operational plans of the alleged coup plotters have emerged at the press briefing at the defense headquarters in Banjul on Thursday. Ahead of New Year's celebration across the country, senior officers from various units of the Gambia Police Force have called on the public to remain law-abiding and report crimes to the nearest police station. Following the deaths of 70 children from acute kidney injury, we engaged stakeholders in pharmaceutical industry on the impact of the tragedy on their businesses. The National Council for Civic Education, in collaboration with UNICEF and other partners, organized a day of national stakeholder sensitization on Wednesday on the Persons with Disabilities Act 2021. In international news, despite continuous Russian shelling of Ukrainian cities, Kyiv is neither intimidated nor deterred when it comes to seeking strong diplomatic ties around the world, and especially in Africa. That's all for this news bulletin. Join us at 10 p.m. for more news. Thanks for watching.